ses. Değerli katılımcılar,
Valuable participants, our live broadcast will begin shortly, so I'd like to ask you to please mute or switch off your telephones. Thank you very much.
Herkese merhaba.
Hello, everyone. Welcome on this wonderful October day, on this sunny and meaningful day. I am gratified to be here on the stage with you. The International Day of the Girl Child Conference is beginning. Welcome. Thank you very much. Yes, please give us a hand. We have the social distance, as you know, we have masks for those of you who are here in the room, but we are applauding the entire girl child community globally. So this year, for the seventh time, we are getting together on the occasion of the International Day of the Girl Child Conference. In our room in Istanbul right now, we have approximately 150 guests with us, and we have live broadcast through our YouTube channel as well as other channels. Right now, we have 3,000 participants. We know that we will have more and more every passing minute. So I'd like to thank everyone for being here and being online to watch us live. To eliminate discrimination against girls and to enable them to benefit from human rights in the equal fashion as boys, the 11th of October was announced by the UN as the World Girl Child's Day. As of 2010, the World International Day of the Girl Child Conference has been held with the participation of Adenauer Foundation, UNFCA, UNICEF, UNFDA. So it's been turning into an international platform, and as you well know, through involvement of women in a full and efficient way, we are going to enable women to enjoy involvement in decision-making mechanisms and be equally able to act as leaders in the society. In the digital transformation age, we need a set of solutions, of course, that need to be concrete, which is why this year in our conference, we have the theme, "The Time is Now, Girls' Leadership in the Digital Era." Today, for boys and girls in the digital era, in order to create a more egalitarian world, what we need to be done globally needs to be discussed, and we will talk about the potential, motivation, and skills of girls. From our country and from countries around the globe, we will have very valuable guests, younger people, many known names to be with us to share their feelings and thoughts about these subjects. And we will find inspiration together. Throughout our conference, we will also have the chance to enable you to drop your questions and comments in our chat boxes. Those of you that are with us via social media can use the tags World International Day of the Girl Child and many other tags that you can see right behind me. So I hope that this will be an inspiring day for all of us in these important matters. Welcome. And I'd like to now invite to the floor Vuslat Doğan Sabancı, the Vice President of Aydın Doğan Foundation, to deliver her inauguration speech. Hello, everyone. This year we are holding the 7th International Day of the Girl Child Conference. Welcome. UNICEF, UNFPA, UN Women have been collaborating with us in a very enjoyable and successful fashion for many years. I'd like to thank all that were involved in this process. The equal representation of girls and boys equally, but so that they benefit from the same opportunities. Creating a world where girls lead us in every field, every platform, is a dream that we all share. We know that over the last years we have made some advancements in gender equity and involvement of girls, but despite all the positive developments in many places around the globe, there have been prejudice and violence against girls, unfortunately. One of those that draws most attention is vital for the age that we live in, which is digital inequity. What I mean by that is when it comes to girls in the fields of mathematics, science, and engineering, well, girls are not represented to a sufficient degree. In the use of internet globally, there is a 17% gender imbalance. 300 million women, fewer women have access to mobile internet as compared to men, which is equal to the population of the USA. So we have to be concerned. This digital gap means that girls and young women are less able to access education and healthcare and other services. It will be more and more difficult for women and girls, even impossible perhaps, as years pass by. Technology should be a great enabler instead. So we have to establish strategies that will enable this. Otherwise, digital inequity will keep growing and we will miss the chances of improving women's ability, participate in labor and technology, etc. So soon, including Turkey, globally, countries are going to require more digital skills. But today's technological inequity means that for girls and women, there will be an obstacle, a caveat when it comes to girls and women's access to the labor force, when it comes to digital skills. So to help the situation, we need to remove the negative prejudice against girls and women. As Aydın Doğan Foundation, we believe that this is the path to follow, and we focus on the education and equal representation and equal enjoyment of opportunities by girls. Preparation to university, scholarships, mentoring, leadership camps, student projects, dormitory life forms, and other tools are enabling us to equip girls for a better world and for the involvement of girls and women in science and mathematics more. We have special labs and tools and resources we use in schools, and we are encouraging girls to work in this field and study in these fields starting from young ages. Moreover, we have support with computers and we incentivize science and engineering among girls. Each year, UNICEF, UN Women, UNFPA collaborate with us on the International Day of the Girl Child Conference, and we aim to enhance awareness among the general public. You can see the digital inequity table right at the background. The theme today is now is the time. It's time for girls' leadership in the digital era. The time is now. So we must equip our girls with the skills that they're going to need in the digital age, and to keep this up on the agenda, we have to use our might, all our might, to make sure that we raise awareness. This is how we should support girls' leadership in the digital era. It's a challenging time, but it will be worth it, and we will all be part of the solution. As Aydın Doğan Foundation, we have the headline, Strong Girls, Strong Tomorrows. For many years, we have focused on our activities in this field, and we have gained an accumulation of knowledge and experience that we are willing and happy to share with all our stakeholders, NGOs, and civil society, and we are happy to have further projects to serve this purpose. In all fields, girls should enjoy equal opportunities as boys, and they should be heard louder. That's why we should act hand in hand. Valuable guests, let us think. Jennifer Doudna developed the CRISPR technology. the best COVID vaccine was developed by Özlem Türeci, which is the best vaccine against COVID-19, by the way. Without them, our lives would be so much more difficult. But Jennifer and Özlem are actually correspond to perhaps 100 other women, other scientists, female scientists, that we are deprived of from the inventions and developments of. Actually, this is one of the most critical turning points for human history. In the coming decade, we are going to do things that will actually decide our destiny on the planet. University of MIT has carried out research that shows when women are involved in active decision-making, institutions and organizations are much more successful. There are many reasons for this, but one of the critical reasons is because thanks to their emotional quotient, women are able to find out about any possible problems earlier and come up with actions for remedy. One of the important components of EQ is the ability to listen carefully. The ability to carefully listen is important for everything, from the pandemic to the climate crisis to women's health to gender inequity. Many problems require this so that we can find a solution. We should not just know how to speak well, we should also be able to listen actively and effectively, which will enable us to open doors that we deem as closed and locked. This means with the emotional intelligence that they have, our girls and women can contribute hugely to development in any of these fields. And I feel this in my heart. So I would like to call upon our stakeholders in Turkey and in the region and globally. It's time. It's time to think outside the box and show that girls' leadership should be here. We should work together. Our conference will be enriched by our valuable panelists and speakers that I'm thanking already. And I wish that it will be an enjoyable conference for all of us. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Vuslat Hanım. This was a really inspiring speech. Happily, EQ is really valuable and women have it from birth. Men learn it afterwards, but when they do, they manage. If they do. Okay. After this inspiring speech, I'd like to turn to one of the hosts of today. Well, as you know, Aydın Doğan Foundation, one of the hosts, as Vuslat Hanım said earlier, has been working actively for many years in order to enable girls to enjoy the same rights as boys and to act more as leaders. Now we have a film about this, and let's watch it, then we can continue. Thank you.
Sen köy yerinde el alem ne der demeyip kızını okula gönderirsen, tarlada çalıştırmak varken yurtlarda kalmasına izin verirsen, o da yetmezmiş gibi şehir dışına gitmesine müsaade edersen, ta oralarda kız başına yaşasın dersen, olacağı bu. Önlerinde durmazsanız onların olacağı, Türkiye'nin geleceği. Aydın Doğan Vakfı olarak her yıl binlerce kızımızın eğitimini destekliyoruz. Güçlü kızlar, güçlü yarınlar.
Evet. Güçlü kızlar, güçlü kızlar.
Strong girls, strong tomorrows. It's so valuable. Now, again, we come to a part where I had been waiting for patiently and curiously. We are going to leave the floor to the owner of today, younger people. 114 young people worked in a really enjoyable project about the digital age and girls' leadership in it. And now I'm going to invite them to the floor. They will have microphones. We have actually 12 representatives from this youth project that will be sharing the stage. And for us, they are going to read this announcement. Hello, everyone. UNICEF, UNFPA, UN Women, and Aydın Doğan Foundation each year organize the International Day of the Girl Child Conference. Within this framework, since July, in every field, we've had the motto that girls are going to assume leadership in every field. And in this frame, we develop certain products and services which bring together our differences. As 114 young people and children, we have recommendations, thoughts, and proposals that we will have you hear now. Although feelings and thoughts might vary, rights and responsibilities are equal everywhere. In the digital era as well as in everywhere else, we need gender equity. We need to eliminate any prejudice and enhance women leadership in every sector, as well as improving employment opportunities. Professions don't have gender. We can be engineers, pilots, scientists, basketballers, or administrators or managers. Successful women will take us as models, and we take successful women as role models, and we need to hear their voices more clearly and more loud so that we get to know them better. In social media, commercials, ads, even in school books, we see inequity of gender. If someone is cleaning the floor in a commercial, usually they're a woman. On the other hand, engineers and managers are usually men. We want these messages in the media to change. We want more egalitarian messages in social media. Girls and women need to use online environment with safety, and we want everyone to act responsibly. For everyone to have a better job, have a better career, and a more successful life, everyone fights. And our challenge is to be visible, to become recognized, and to be seen. In literature, science, sports, and literature, we want to be involved, and we want to show our interest, and we want to be part of cultural and scientific activities and events. We need this. In the fields of sports, art, science, and education, we must have more funds to benefit from. Each of us has different skills and aptitudes. We need teachers that are going to discover our aptitudes. We don't want to be acting like girls or boys. We just want to be ourselves. We want to be the person we want to be. We want to do anything that we can do. We believe that in every field we must have gender equity. Do not forget, we are the ones, the generation that will shape today and tomorrow. With your support, we will be the leaders of today and tomorrow, and we will work hard for the enhancement of girls' skills. To find out about our proposals and thoughts, please use the social communication networks of UNICEF, UNDP, and Aydın Doğan Foundation. A big round of applause for these wonderful young people. Give them a hand. Thank you so much, children. Once again, we give them a hand. Standing ovation. So, once again, thank you very much and congratulations all colleagues who have been contributing to this process. Let me remind you that all these activities prepared by our younger people and our children can be viewed from dünyakızçocukları.org. Today with us we have UNICEF Europe, Central Asia Regional Director, Ms. Afsha. I'd like to invite her to the floor.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ozge Hanaim, for your kind introduction. Distinguished guests, Ms. Futla Doan Sabanchi, Vice President of Aydin Doan Foundation, distinguished representatives and country directors of UNFPA, UN Women in Turkey, UNICEF, dear guests in Istanbul and viewers from around Europe and Central Asia, dear girls and boys with us in this room, and those of you watching on your screens. It's a true pleasure for me to be here on this very special day to mark International Day of the Girl Child by bringing young people together with experts and representatives from women and children's organizations and members of the international community as well. 10 years ago, in 2011, the United Nations General Assembly declared 11th of October as the International Day of the Girl Child, to recognize the unique rights girls must have in order to meet unique challenges girls face all around the world, and to provide an opportunity to amplify efforts of investing girls in the present, here and now, and the future. Let us think together. Why does empowering girls and women matter? We know that by providing girls and women with tools for self-empowerment and equal participation, we invest not only in individuals, but also in bringing and building stronger communities. The challenge that our world has gone through in the last decades have shown us that girls and women are engines of social development and change. As we have witnessed during the COVID-19 pandemic, during and after armed conflicts, as well as in emergency situations and disasters, women are key actors in overcoming disasters, ensuring peace and stability, and in rebuilding our society. Girls and women take the lead in caring for us as frontline workers in health and as caregivers. They have a proven record as successful innovators, and we heard about that today, peace builders, negotiators, entrepreneurs, farmers, teachers, lawmakers. The list goes on and on. Girls and women are particularly strong in supporting each other and showing solidarity with one another and empowering each other. Investing in women and girls, building their skills, and giving them equal opportunities enhances sustainable development and our common prosperity. The SDGs cannot be met without them. The world has witnessed encouraging progress on girls and women's empowerment in the past few decades. Compared to previous generations, we see more women in leadership roles, fewer girls in child marriage and early unions, and there has also been notable progress in girls' health, nutrition, and access to education. These gains have to be nurtured and encouraged. Too many girls are still left behind, excluded from realizing their rights and their full potential. In the Europe and Central Asia region alone, at the current rate, it is estimated that it will take 107 years to fully close the gender gap. Across our region, discrimination and violence against women and girls are still common and are particularly widespread amongst the most disadvantaged populations. These include refugee and migrant women and girls, adolescent girls from the most marginalized groups, those living with disabilities and health conditions such as HIV, and children with non-conforming gender identities, girls from Roma communities, those living in remote areas in poverty, and in closed institutions. Dear distinguished guests, the last decade has brought tremendous changes to the world as we knew it, at an unprecedented speed, the way we connect, the way we work, the way we learn, the way we participate, the way we listen. How did all this impact children? Many children are already born into this digital world. Many young girls and boys are forming their identity and experiencing their transition from adolescence to adulthood through digital platforms. The use of digital platforms for connecting, participating, and learning has accelerated further because of COVID-19. Yet the pandemic showed us that inequalities, including gender inequalities, deepen in such challenging times. When these intersect with poverty, lack of resources, and social norms, it makes it even more difficult for women and girls fully to participate in the digital space. Worldwide, roughly 327 million fewer women than men have a smartphone and can access mobile internet. Let me express this another way. In order to demonstrate how significant this statistic is, women on average are 26% less likely than men to have a smartphone. In Central Asia, women have 30% less access to the internet compared to men. This undermines their chances to obtain skills needed for the labor market. Additionally, the underrepresentation of girls and women in science, in technology, in engineering and math, STEM fields, also continues to be a common challenge across Eastern Europe and Central Asia. Just 1/3 of graduates from STEM programs are female, and at 15 years of age, on average, in OECD countries, only 0.5% of girls wish to become ICT professionals, compared to 5% of boys. So gender barriers to addressing the digital sphere have yet another aspect: discrimination and gender-based violence. Gender stereotypes represented in social media, sexual harassment online, forms of stalking and other cyberbullying are among the risks that girls are exposed to in their daily lives. A recent global analysis by the Economic Intelligence Unit notes that 85% of women globally report witnessing online violence against other women, including within and outside their networks. 38% report personal experiences with online violence, especially affecting younger women. And 45% of Generation Z and millennial girl children are facing online violence. That's a staggering figure. Yet only 1 in 4 women have reported such behaviors to the platform on which they occurred. That is a tragedy. Distinguished audience, at this point, let me pause and ask, are we doing enough to address these issues? Can we do more? Globally, as well as in our region, we observe increasing visible social movements on gender equality. These include a growing public discourse on sexual violence and harassment in the wake of the Me Too movement and protests regarding dignified working environments for women, such as have been felt during the Time's Up movement. At the same time, we're also witnessing a pushback against the progress achieved in gender equality. These can be seen in recent actions regarding human rights treaties and conventions, and the challenges faced by some civil society organizations and statements normalizing violence against women and girls. To achieve true gender equality, we must continue to push for it each day in all aspects of our work and our personal lives. Within the framework of the Sustainable Development Goals, we are committed to ending all forms of discrimination against all women and girls, everywhere, including in the online space. We also have to make sure that women and girls can participate and enjoy equal opportunities for leadership and use of enabling technologies that allow their full participation in society. As the title of today's conference suggests, it's time to accelerate our collective action in advancing gender equality. It's time for states to put greater effort into establishing more inclusive and gender-responsive education systems, criminalizing violence against women, including in the digital sphere, creating a more protective and enabling operational environment for civil society organizations is an important component of this effort. Many have said today the time is now for all of us, the international community, the private sector, experts, parents, teachers, and community members to accelerate our support to adolescent girls, safe and meaningful participation in advancing gender equality. The time is now to support young women and girls to become the champions of gender equality, especially in a more digital field, as leaders of today. Dear children and young people, as you already know, gender equality is not only a fundamental human right, it is the foundation for a sustainable world where all girls and boys and women and men and people of all genders can enjoy the same rights, resources, opportunities, and protection. You know that gender to a world free of violence and discrimination. You use social media to raise your voices, to share positive narratives of your success and achievements. You invent applications. You code. You shape new technologies. You offer your own solutions to the world's problems. What can we do to support you more? I look forward to listening to you during today's conference, and I also have a few considerations I would like to share with all of you. We should move away from only sense of the digital world and its victims. Women and girls are often victims of harassment, poverty, and discrimination. But women and girls are also leaders, change makers, mentors, role models, contributing to rebuilding our own lives and communities. With this perspective, I'd like to recall 6 core principles included in the gender equality strategy in Europe and Central Asia, which we want to learn from you how to use this tool to guide our joint efforts in the Europe and Central Asia region. First, we must prioritize tackling negative gender norms and build a common understanding of the root causes of gender inequality and discriminatory roles in society. Secondly, we must equip young people, especially girls, with the skills relevant to the 21st century. These include not only digital skills, but also soft skills for collaboration, problem solving, critical thinking. And thirdly, we need and should engage boys and men in our collective efforts. They are critical allies in shifting the dominant norms and in promoting girls' and women's empowerment. Fourthly, our efforts to mobilize social and behavioral change and transform the way we engage with communities, building our own skills for supporting children to learn and interact safely in the digital world. The fifth principle is addressing gender issues at the systemic, legal, and policy levels, enhancing gender data for policy change, and finally, As of today, and this forum is a great example, we should leverage our partnerships for collaboration, including with women and youth-led organizations, academia, private sector, knowing that business can be a key partner in identifying innovative solutions for gender equality. And they are critical to invest more in digital solutions to reach more and the most disadvantaged. Media agencies and advertising federations are critical, as we heard from young people. They can significantly influence how gender roles and stereotypes are portrayed in society. Distinguished audience, I would like to conclude my remarks by calling upon all organizations and every member of society to work together to advance the skills, leadership, and well-being of adolescent girls, and support their agency and voice. Together, we can and must continue to work together to achieve gender equality for every child. Teşekkürler.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Afshan Hanım. Thank you. Sayın Hanım, bir kez daha çok
Once again, we would like to thank Ms. Han for this nice speech right now. We will have a very special talk with the leaders. In front of you, the Aydın Doğan Foundation Director Hanzade Doğan and UNICEF General Director Henrietta Fore and the CEO of NASDAQ, Adina Friedman, will be with us in order to moderate the session. I'd like to yield the floor to my colleague, Afshin Yurdakul. With a round of applause, we would like to invite our speakers to the stage, please. Thank you very much.
Hi. Okay. Happy International Day of the Girl Child. Hi, everyone. So this is going to be the shortest session of the day, and I'm asked to be very tough with time. Welcome again. It's wonderful to join you today. I'm Afshin Yurdakul. I'll be just facilitating this conversation. We're going to have 3 rock stars. You're going to meet them all right now. I'm just going to make sure it runs smoothly. We have about 15 minutes together. All right. I hope you can all hear me. Hi, Henrietta Fore. Henrietta is UNICEF's Executive Director. Hi, Ms. Hanzade Doğan, hello. I think you can hear me as well. Fantastic. Adina Friedman, thank you, Adina, for joining us, President and CEO of NASDAQ. You're with us too. It's wonderful to join you all today. So we want to make this a conversation, not a heavily moderated discussion. It's great that all the young girls who are joining this conversation today online in this room and around the region are going to hear your experiences. One thing that I need to remind once again that please stick to time. You have about 3 minutes for the first round and then another 2 minutes for the second round. Welcome again. I'd like to start with Henrietta. Please give us a very brief assessment of the gender digital divide around the world, a snapshot. Where do we stand today?
All right, for the snapshot. So I think you've just heard a very good presentation by Afshan Khan about the status within the region. It's no better around the world. So one of the initiatives we have at UNICEF is to try to connect every school in the world to the internet and every learner. This will be an enormous boost to girls and women out around the world. It will also help boys and men, but we want to be sure that the girls are there. So around the world, consistent pattern, lower online access and use by girls. Girls are less likely than boys to have used the internet in the last 12 months. Boys are 1.5 times more likely than girls to own a mobile phone. Boys use far more digital platforms and services and a much wider range of activities than girls, and they are much more likely to use them on the internet. Roughly 46% of boys use internet on their phones compared to 27% of girls. So what we need to do is to be sure that there's access, that it isn't the older brother who has the mobile phone, it is the girl, the younger sister, who gets the mobile phone. Digital literacy, being able to use the internet and its technology and to stay safe. This is particularly hard in developing countries where the adults often are not digitally literate, so it's just groundbreaking for the girls to be able to be safe online. Third, online safety. There is so much cyberbullying and cyber stalking that goes on around the world that we really have to be sure that we educate our girls as to what goes on online. And then what to do about it. So one is make sure that we are listening to girls, and what they say they need is what they need. Second, be sure to emphasize digital skills for girls in school, as indeed the wonderful Aydin Doğan Foundation is doing. Third, be sure that we have legal frameworks for safeguarding. Fourth, that we widen the pathways for particularly the vulnerable girls and children who are often left behind. And fifth, have literacy training for fathers and mothers and caregivers so that they all understand what's at stake for girls. So with that, let me turn it back to you, Afshan. And we know the world is inequitable, and that's what the statistics tell us.
Henrietta, thank you. I'd like to turn to Adina Friedman, and can I have Adina on the video wall? Hello again and welcome. Thanks for being with us, Adina. You're leading NASDAQ through the next technological shift, and God, that must be quite an experience. Would love to hear more from you, and how do you see, whether you see the trends laid out by Henrietta for a second ago, how does that play out in the financial industry? What are the challenges and opportunities for that lie ahead for women and girls when you look at the future? What would you say?
Well, thank you very much for having me today to talk about such an important topic. I think, we're here to encourage women and girls to achieve their greatest ambitions. And it is such an important and urgent topic because girls and women, by having as more of them join the economy by working outside the home, there's just a plethora of evidence that demonstrates that a country's economy becomes stronger, both in terms of fueling economic growth by tapping into an amazing talent pool, as well as by creating a more balanced society, drawing on complementary strengths of men and women driving society forward together. When we think about the financial industry and what we do to serve the economies, we're here to create fuel for the economic growth. We're here to fund new businesses, new ideas, innovation that really drive society forward. That innovation coming from both men and women make it so that we can drive society forward in a more balanced way. And using technology is a critical component to that. So when I look back and think about my own career and what got me where I am, I had a lot of different elements driving me to my current role. The first was I had great role models in my parents. My father spent his career in investment management, and he brought me to the office occasionally when I was growing up, which gave me a front seat to understanding his business and understanding investments, understanding the financial markets. After being a full-time mother for several years, my mother decided to become a lawyer when I was 9 and became the first female partner in her law firm. So her professional journey was very important to me. Another major contributor has been my access to education and the encouragement that I received from teachers to aim high and follow my professional dreams, starting with early education and starting with STEM. A lot of science in school, a lot of understanding, and access to science, teachers who were trying to push us to understanding it and investing our time to really understand math and science, I think was a big part of my education growing up. And then I also received sponsorships when I started working from my managers and senior leaders at NASDAQ throughout my career. And they guided me and counseled me and helped manage my career priorities to position me for my current role. So there's a key lesson there. And by the way, they were all men. So, the key lesson is that while women can do a lot to help other women, we do live in a co-ed society, and having strong men as allies are very important to women's success. So when we examine all of the ingredients that contribute to women's success in the professional world, it includes family, access to education, senior level sponsors and mentors, and most importantly, each woman's own inner drive and passion that come together to create the recipe for success. So thank you very much for having me here today, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Adina. We'll be back for the second round. Hanzade Doğan Borner, I'd like to now come to you. I do know that your foundation works to open up more space for women and girls in this field, in the digital and the STEM areas. Please tell us more about the work that the foundation does and how women and girls can enter and thrive in those fields.
Sure, thank you. I'm very happy to be here with you in such an important day. We are really at the cusp of a scientific and technological change. And this change, this transformation is so powerful that it is, if we don't have a fair representation of a woman in science and technology, it's very threatening. At the same time, it's a big opportunity, because if we have enough a fair representation of women in STEM, then we have a chance to do a quantum jump in gender equality. So it is really existential, I believe, to make sure we have female representation in these subjects. I mean, our foundation has been committed to this cause for the past 25 years. We've done giving anything from giving scholarship to secondary schools, to building dormitories, to running mentorship programs. And in the last 5 years, we also started a scholarship program to encourage girls to choose STEM subjects in their higher educations. And we try to target girls at a much younger age, when they are 13, 14, to explain them, to show them role models that, you know, science and math is not only for boys, which I believe the most important barrier in front of us is these cultural biases. They are, you know, these subtle messages, these stereotypes, these biases, all makes look girls like they are less able in science and math than boys, which is totally not true. It's nonsense. It is cultural biases, cultural convenience. We need to fight these stereotypes. That's where we start from. You know, we need to continue telling our daughters that they can go to the moon, walk on the moon, they can be whatever they want, and tech and science and math are not for boys. Because if we don't break these barriers, I am very worried that the work we have done in gender equality is just not going to reach anywhere. This is now, we are at an inflection point. So we will keep telling our daughters and girls that, look, we have Adena Friedman running a tech company, not only the leading exchange for tech companies. Nasdaq is a tech company itself. We have Özlem Türenci, who almost saved humanity by helping finding the COVID vaccination. So we're not going to be pessimist, and we're not going to just sit still. We will fight these cultural biases. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And quantum leap in gender equality sounds just fascinating. And I could not agree more that telling girls that they can do it and girls can do it is a very, very powerful message. So in this last round, I'd like to, obviously as a journalist, I truly believe in the power of storytelling. So I'd like you to share some stories with us because I do know that they're going to stick with the audience here. We have a lot of leaders from civil society, from government representatives and media leaders who are tuning into this conversation, but there are also girls who are joining us online today from Turkey and from around the region. So I'd love to ask you, and in the same order, Henrietta for Hanzade Doğan, Adena Friedman, personal stories that shaped you and that encouraged you to walk that tough road ahead and not to give up. I would love to hear that, and I would love for those young girls listening to this conversation right now, get inspired. I know it's going to stick with them. Henrietta Fore, please go ahead. You have 2 minutes. I know I asked a tough question, but 2 minutes should be at least enough to keep us more excited to hear more. Please
But
go
thank
ahead.
you. All right. So, so when I was growing up, we were just two girls. And as a result, it never dawned on me that there was another life in which I was lesser. So I then went to girls' schools and a women's college at Wellesley, and I assumed I was equal. That is very helpful. So back to what Hanze mentioned about having confidence, have that confidence. And then let me go to Adina. So my father was in manufacturing and in milling, and he had lots of businesses. And so I spent some time listening to him. I should have spent more time asking him how he ran the businesses so that I would learn about business. But later, maybe 10 years later in life, when I was old enough, my father asked me to run one of his companies. It was a manufacturing company in the steel business. I didn't know anything about steel. I'd studied history and music and art and economics, and I loved science, but I learned about the steel industry. When I was little, I dreamed that I could be something important like an astronaut. I loved math and science and physics, but I didn't know what I could do with it. I thought I just could be a teacher. I found that when I got into business, that I could do anything using business. So I'm a creative type, and I started a lot of businesses, very entrepreneurial. I bought businesses, I sold businesses, and I found it fun. You will find something that will be fun. So if you have a parent that's in business, ask them to teach you about it. If you have some brothers and sisters, see if they want to start a business with you. You never know how much fun you can have with all of this, and grab your friends. And then later, I decided I needed to do some public service, that I wanted to serve my country. I wanted to help in humanitarian and development spheres. And you can just raise your hand and see if you can do public service or community service. And it begins with volunteering, but for me, it means that I had a chance to become the executive director of UNICEF globally, so I can help millions of children and young people. Mm-hmm. And you can do that if you want to. So the doors are wide open. You've got some great role models with you today from UNICEF and UN Women and UNFPA and from the foundation. So use it. Ask older people to help you, and we just support all of your dreams. Go be whatever you want to be. As Hanze said, you can be anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Henrietta. You can be anything. What a powerful message. Adina, I know you're into martial arts, and that has helped you become fearless along the way. I wonder if your advice to young girls is also picking up a hobby that's going to help them become more fearless. How can they be more fearless?
Well, I would actually start by saying that when I was young, I wanted to be an astronaut, and my teachers never at any point said, "You're a girl, you can't be an astronaut." They always said, "Okay, well, let's talk about what it takes to become an astronaut." And they would talk to me about physics. They'd talk to me about chemistry. They'd talk to me about math. They'd talk to me about, why do I want to be an astronaut? So the teachers had played such a critical role in helping me build confidence that if I really want to do something, it's on me to figure out how to do it. There's no barriers to trying something, to doing something. And what's really amazing, I obviously did not become an astronaut, but I did apply my math skills, my economic skills to coming to NASDAQ. And now, of course, we are an advanced technology provider to the capital markets all over the world, including a partner to the exchange in Istanbul. But I also would say that now I'm looking out and looking at the world, and there are all of these companies now that are involved in space and involved in taking space to the next level. And so, as I look around and I realize that our capital market and NASDAQ and what we do helps those companies find money and make it so that they can achieve their ambitions. It's really fun to think about all of the careers that are possible today in looking at space or looking at chemistry, looking at medicine, looking at the advances in medicine, examining how technology can change lives. It is just an incredible time of opportunity. And it's really just a matter of having that inner drive, listening to those sponsors who have confidence in you so that you can have confidence in yourself. And then taking those ambitions and trying to take them as far as you can. But just be bold and be confident, but also find those mentors and sponsors who can help you, who are there to put the positive voice in your head, not the negative one, to help you find and achieve your ambitions.
Thank you, Adina Friedman. And lastly, Hanzade Doğan, what would you say? What is your advice to the girls, to the young girls listening to this conversation in this room and online at the moment? How can they keep pushing and not give up? And as Adina said, make sure that inner drive is alive.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I am really inspired by both Henrietta's and Adina's speeches, and I want to echo what they've said. My personal experience is slightly different because I come from a family who my parents always, wanted us to be on our 2 feet and to be independent. At the same time, the culture, the background was more, slightly more conservative. My mom wasn't able to go to university because my grandmother thought it wouldn't be safe for her to stay in a big city. So she was a woman who didn't have the means I had. And that really, I think, defined, in a way, my journey. Because I firsthand experienced what it feels as a girl not to be believed in. So my message to you would be, don't even let your parents or your relatives or whoever, your teachers, to make you doubt that as a girl you are less. You have to somehow, even if you feel that other people are making you feel that, you need to find your inner drive or inherent worth, as Adina said, that you're not less and you deserve the best and you can do it. You have role models and you're not alone. Ask for help. There are, a lot of platforms, institutions who sincerely, genuinely want to help girls. Don't be shy of asking help and don't let anyone let you doubt yourself.
Henrietta Fore, Hanzade Doğan, Adina Friedman, thank you so much for delivering such a powerful message today. It was wonderful to join you. It was an honor to be a part of this conversation. Thank you all, and thank you all for listening and for being with us. Let's get back to you.
Teşekkür ediyoruz. Sevgili Afşin Yurdakul'a, konuklarına bu ilham verici mesajlardan dolayı da çok
Thank you very much, Afşin Yurdakul and colleagues.
liderliği hakkında yaptıkları kıymetli paylaşım ve genç
Valuable panelists, thank you for your speeches. So, after sharing experiences about how we can have good role models for younger girls, we'll start with our panel. The first panel is about strengthening girls in the digital era, opportunities and threats, challenges. But before that, to open the panel, we have Mr. Hasan Muhteşami, UN Turkey representative. Please, sir, take the floor to open the panel.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. I recognize our partner, Aydin Doğan Foundation, my esteemed UN colleagues, Regional Director of UNICEF, UNICEF representative, and UN Women representative, as well as all partners and colleagues around, particularly young people. Thank you very much for being today here, and we are honored to be part of this function today, commemorating the International Day of Girl Child. And this year's theme is extremely meaningful for all of us, and you heard from different distinguished presenters here. Today, our life is integrated into digital life. Imagine that one day we don't have access to internet. It's impossible to pass through that day. And the use of social media particularly is now an indispensable element of daily life, particularly among youth. And the numbers are striking. Even in particularly in Turkey, you might have heard 4 out of 5 people in Turkey use internet on a daily basis. So it's quite entrenched in our daily life here. Digitization and, of course, online environment have become more widespread during pandemic, the last 1.5 years, and brought us a new style of life and work, and we experienced it on a daily basis. So it's bringing us more opportunities, and at the same time, of course, some risks and concerns. We did a study at UNFPA here. It was interesting to note that one of the 5 people in Turkey has noticed that they have subject to digital violence during the survey period. And it was more striking among the younger group, 15 to 17. The case was 1 in 3. We know girls are an important element of this online interaction. And they are active members in the digital world. The psychological impact of the girls' experience in particularly during their development age, is now affiliated with the online environment, will be lasting. It will accompany them throughout their life. For this reason, it is critical that adolescent girls learn about their rights in the digital world and be aware about their leadership and voice in this environment and claim their space, particularly regarding their bodily autonomy. As UN Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency, we focus on this aspect of digital world particularly. In our global report, State of World Population Report in 2021, we have indicated that nearly half of all women and girls are denied their bodily autonomy around the world. This is inconceivable result, and will affect negatively sexual and reproductive health and rights of women and girls around the world. We believe a girl who is aware about her own abilities and empowered with full understanding of her rights, particularly the right to say no, will not only be leader of her own life, but also contribute to building a gender-equal world in future. Our executive director put it in her statement nicely for this occasion, global statement, that we must not tolerate a digital world that reinforces inequality. Instead, let's apply these technologies to help girls achieve their rights and secure their bodily autonomy. At UNFPA, we will continue to promote and advocate for sexual and reproductive health and rights of women and girls. We are not apologetic for that, and we, particularly in digital age, we believe the centrality of sexual and reproductive health and rights of girls in overall gender equality agenda. Çok teşekkürler. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muhteşami. Şimdi panelimize
Now, before we move on with our panel, as you know, social media posts play a really important role in our lives now. So that you share this event, I'd like to remind you of our tag so that you can, our hashtag, so that you can watch the panel. These are the ones in Turkish, Dünya Kız Çocukları Konferansı, and Güçlü Kızlar, Güçlü Yarınlar. We also have in English, International Day of the Girl Child Conference, and Empowered Girls, Empowered Futures, IDGC 2021 and Day of the Girl. These are the hashtags to use today. So under these hashtags, please make social media posts today. So now we move on with the panel. Empowerment of girls in the digital era, opportunities and challenges. From UK, Sonia Livingstone. From Ukraine, Yana Pamfilova. From Turkey, Selin Özünaldın and İlayda Işık. And the moderator of the panel will be our beloved Shirin Payzın. So I'd like to invite to the floor our valuable guests, please. Welcome. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'd like to invite my guests. A lot of important things will be discussed in a very short amount of time. We have really limited time. Yana, how would you like to? Thank you. Once again, welcome. So I checked my agenda. The 11th of October 2019 was the last time I was in this room, and we were talking about the invisible obstacles that we should overcome, especially how girls should overcome them so that they can have a strong future. Actually, there were invisible barriers back then, and we were not even aware of them because right after, in the aftermath of this event, there was a pandemic, and we suffered a lot. But it started a completely new world, and before our sight, overnight, lives changed, and our days would never be the same again. We all digitalized and we all got used to working, doing business, talking, communicating in the digital world. And we looked at the world from a digital point of view, which means I'm now running this panel in a totally new world. Last year we held an online event it was the same conference held online this time, but now we are together in the same room and discussing the realities of a totally brand new world. So how we can create opportunities for girls in this world, and what kind of obstacles might they come across, and how do we use the digital environment or new technologies to empower girls. We do have great opportunities ahead of us, but there are also caveats that we should be careful about. So, as I say, this is a long topic that we have to discuss briefly. Sonia Livingstone from UK is with us. In the booklets in front of you can see the background of our guests. Welcome, Sonia. Welcome, guests. Thanks so much for being with us. So I turn to Sonia.
Quite limited time. You have 7 minutes, and I would like to welcome you one more time. And would you like to share with us how do you see new opportunities for girls in digital world? What are challenges and opportunities as well?
I should be delighted, and thank you so much for the invitation and the celebration of the Day of the Girl. And I'm sorry I can't be with you in person today, but I have set my timer for 7 minutes.
Next year,
I'm very
hopefully.
pleased to give you some thoughts. I think we are all well aware that 2 billion young people at the moment do not have internet access, and girls are more likely to be without it than boys and young men. And indeed, whichever indicator you use and in whichever country you look, there are persistent gender gaps in access and use of digital technologies, and these apply at home. When digital technology is provided by parents or caregivers, they tend to be more likely to give better and earlier access to boys than to girls, and they tend to supervise their daughters more closely. At school and in other public locations, again, boys gain more access and more support, and especially the idea that children will go on into technology-related careers is much more reserved for boys. And as we know, the pandemic was mentioned. Of course, this has highlighted the intersectionality of digital and gender divides, which are wider in rural areas and poorer areas. And yet, girls around the world, including in your and my region, girls are excited and optimistic about technology. For the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child, when we produced General Comment 25 about the digital world, we held a global consultation and listened to such enthusiasm. Girls keen to learn about technology, girls keen to gain digital literacy, girls who see the digital world as a space for their agency and for their voice, a place where they can exercise their passion about creativity and communication, a place where they can participate and make a difference. So I speak as a researcher, researching particularly the Global Kids Online project jointly with UNICEF Office of Research at Innocenti. And, you know, there we see often evidence of gender differences in access and uses of technology, but they're not uniform. So we also find there are countries where the gender differences are small, where national policies to overcome the gender gap can really help. And so the gender gap is not inevitable. There is much that policymakers and practitioners can do. At the same time, you asked me to talk about opportunities. You know, even in the world's richest countries with all the privileges, it's still only a minority of children, a small minority sometimes, who really do the most creative and most participatory activities online. So in all of those possibilities that we would love to encourage for girls, many more efforts are needed to, in our work, we think of it as a kind of ladder of online participation. And many children begin at the beginning, but they don't get the opportunities to do more advanced and more complex and more developed opportunities. What is encouraging, I think, for today's discussion is that when the limitations and gaps in access are overcome, there are fewer differences in what boys and girls choose to do online. They all love online communication. They all value information search. In many countries, though, they do say there are not enough diverse and imaginative online resources for them. And I would say especially for girls. So it's not just a matter of encouraging girls, but also providing resources for them in their language, in consultation with them. And just to make a small point, one of the big differences we do see in research is about games. And it's often thought boys just play games. This is a problem. They play too many. Perhaps this is true. But in Global Kids Online, we argue that often gaming is where young people gain their first confidence and their sense that this is a community in which they have a voice, they can engage. So if girls are less often playing games, perhaps they are not gaining that confidence and those skills really to participate in a digital world. And that brings me to a point I wanted briefly to make about skills. I think we often think of digital skills in very functional terms. And what I see in research is that if we just think about the functionality of digital skills, this can lead to some benefits, but not as many as expected. And it can lead to some risks because a child who knows how to use the technology but doesn't really understand the digital world can get into danger. So what is crucial is a multidimensional approach to digital skills and a multidimensional approach that addresses the existing gender differences in information seeking and in critical evaluation skills, which we see in our research, and perhaps an approach to digital skills, and I know this is the next session in your conference, which really encourages girls to imagine they can learn all the skills, they can go all the way, they can become the next generation of STEM, working in STEM, working in the technology world where they can change their mind and where they can make a difference. And again, in teaching information skills, I think we need to consult girls about what specifically they want advice on, what the information they want to find. Often they want to find information about puberty about sexuality, sexual health, mental health. These resources need to be provided so that when they go looking, when they develop their skills, the opportunities are really built for them. And my last word is to say a survey by Plan International across many countries recently showed over half of girls have been harassed or abused online. So we really need to take very seriously the way in which the risks go with the opportunities. The digital skills can stand in the centre to provide children, especially girls, with that resilience and the ability to cope. It's very important that adults understand how young people see those risks and don't take a judgmental or a restrictive or punitive approach to dealing with those risks, but that they genuinely try to find ways to empower and support girls through their digital journey rather than protect them so much that they cannot gain the resilience and the confidence to explore and find their own way. And again, consulting girls, I'm sure that will be said many times today, but consulting girls about what they think the digital world could be, what opportunities they want, and the support they want to get there is really the most crucial message of today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Thank you for very brief but excellent remarks about our subject today, this afternoon. So, şimdi konuklarıma döneyim. Sonya da...
Let's go back to our guests. I believe Sonia will stay with us. We will hear from we heard from the perspective of an academic, but we have the activists. Let's hear from them. We have wonderful 3 guests with us. We have 3 panelists, or they are the ones with whom we will walk together. Yana Panfilova from Ukraine.
For joining us, as I said before. Selin Özünalpım, doğru mu?
Selin Özünaldım from Turkey. And İlayda Işık from Turkey. They are 2 activists, Selin and İlayda. I mean, you see, they do wonderful things. He for she in Turkey was very smooth campaign in Turkey. It was a civil initiative and showed its power in Turkey. And İlayda was the coordinator of Kız Başına platform. We have limited time. Unfortunately, we don't have many minutes for our questions. That's why. What will we be doing in the digital age? Because civil initiative is really important and activism is really important, and digital platforms are used in order to collect our powers together. Of course, there are many bottlenecks and problems, but digital activism, after a while, will turn into a big power, and we want you to talk about it.
Thank you so much. My name is Yana. I'm from Ukraine, and I was born with HIV. As a person who lives with HIV, I know that gender equality is so important to live free. But social stigma and bad laws don't allow you to be yourself. Even after 40 years, society still fears and discriminates against this disease. When I was 10, I had learned of my HIV status. I started taking daily pills against this virus that saved my life. But I need more 7 years to accept my HIV status. When I was a teenager, I had many difficult questions, such as, why did my mother keep my HIV status as a secret? Can I have a sex? If I do, will I transmit HIV? And many more questions. As I grew up, the answer found me. My biology teacher told my class not to talk to people living with HIV. My friend's grandma was very angry because my mom didn't tell her that I had HIV before a sleepover at their home. I realized that my HIV status was a dark secret for everyone else, but not for me. Doctors didn't talk to me about my health. They only talked to my mother, pretending she knows my all decisions about my conditions. I could even talk to my doctors alone because the laws didn't allow it until my 18th birthday. And many adolescents still facing the same problem in the legislations. They need to wait 18 years old to go and talk with a parent, with the doctors. So I I had to look for answers on my own and ask Dr. Google. I realized millions of other adolescents were in the same situation. So we created Teenager, the first peer support group for vulnerable adolescents and young people in Eastern Europe, Central Asia. We operate in 6 countries and have provided online peer counseling for thousands of young people, especially girls, especially adolescent girls, in 6 countries in ICA region. And states how many young work with. We want to change this reality. Young girls have struggled. During the COVID pandemic, the world has changed so quickly. Young girls have struggled to cope with mental trauma, isolations, and social distancing, especially if their family relationships are not good. If they're feeling stress, depression, and anxiety, and some are using more drugs and having riskier sex, violence, inequalities, and radicalism are increasing. Those who felt bad felt even worse. Lera, she's a young woman, only 17 years old, and she's an activist and teenager. Last year, she attempted suicide three times. She spent 7 days in the hospital in a coma. It was the beginning of the COVID, and it was awful. She felt isolation, scarcity, and lonely. She has been feeling depressions all the time, and only now it was diagnosed. She felt the pressure of society. Very often it's related to gender. It started her to cry so that no one could hear, to harm herself so that no one could see, and to smile in such a way that no one even understood that inside she hated herself in all her life hurt. It put pressure on her. The word depression is not enough to describe all the feelings that she faced. At Teenager, we launched Stay Safe to provide psychological peer support, because now all adolescents and young people stay online and live with mobile phone. They sleep with mobile phone, and sometimes the young people, especially girls and young boys, feel more anxieties, and so that we should work with that, because what happened with Lera did not happen to any girls. So we must listen adolescent girls and young women, especially girls. We have to rights now to participate decision affecting our lives and our health, because there's nothing about us without us. We must build a good mental health and psychological peer support both online and offline. Today, we all celebrate International Girls' Children Days. Why can we use this moment to build a better and more just world? We must give girls more opportunities and more faith that this world is not just a man. We must invest in girls, because we are all different, but everyone has two rights, full respect and dignity, no matter who we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, you have 1 minute left, so why don't we take this opportunity to ask you a question? Just very briefly, can you give us a brief answer about how you get organized digitally for your supports, I mean psychological supports, or to get people together, and what's your experience about that?
So now we only work in online sphere, and we have more than 120 young peers who supporting each other. We educate them, and this is like students of psychological courses. That's why their motivation is higher, and that's why they're volunteering in our organization. So it's easy to work online because it's easy to chatting, because the young people, especially Generation
they
Z,
feel much
it's much easier
and feel more comfortable when they are texting, right?
Because our communication skills are changed. Because now it's harder to talk in the person. It's easy to chatting something and chatting to describe something. Sometimes the young girls or men, adolescent, they like living with parents in the one room, not like the big house. And so that they can tell something in the loud, they easy to judging because their parents, they know what happened in their children's.
Exactly. So
yeah,
that's a very good point, actually. So we have to change our mindsets and also, I mean, feel and understand more about young generations' expectations in every field, actually.
And mostly now we see that a lot of because young girls, it's facing like a lot of discrimination. For example, they feeling about like struggle and feeling isolations, feeling depressed. And we have got 1,200 like counselors per month, and we see that sometimes they don't know what they feel like feeling, because in our schools we don't talk about the emotionals. We don't talk about like how we figure out for all what you feel. And our society, like our region, we post-Soviet Union, and so it's hard to something to say about emotions. Because last 30 years, the people stay at home and don't talk. And that's why we see that a lot of radicalism, we see that because the people easy to beat someone than just describe something in the words.
Very interesting, Yana. Thank you very much. And congratulations, of course, for your efforts. Şimdi Selin.
Right now, Selin, as I told briefly, she is the youngest activist of the He for She Turkey. Without further ado, I'd like to yield the floor to you. We have a digital audience and a physical audience. Could you please briefly tell us what you do? Of course, thank you very much. Well, as many of the previous speakers have also mentioned today, technology, social media, and internet will continue to be in our lives, and we, increased using them. It is an indispensable part of our lives due to the pandemic. We have used them in our education. We have used that in order to share our pictures and our memories and in order to communicate with our peers and friends. But during this pandemic, we have seen that coding, robotic technology is actually lacking in the girls. And in order to orient them to those fields and make them leaders, rather than doing this, unfortunately, we come up with such a huge problem, which is the cyber violence and cyber bullying. Especially after the pandemic, the sexual harassment in online platforms towards girls increased remarkably. And according to the statistics and data coming from a variety of researchers, those cases increase remarkably, but unfortunately the precautions are not taken as they are being articulated, and those precautions are not taken as swiftly as we desire. And unfortunately, although many agreements are undersigned, they do not come to fruition and become a reality of our lives. That's why I do believe the private sector, the private companies, have a huge responsibility. If you take a closer look to the last 10 years, we will see that all those movies can be presented in such a manner that the social justice is being presented and promoted, so that many people can be informed about those problems. We have witnessed it many times. Regarding to cyber violence and any sort of violence, we should educate our girls, because their minds are full with taboos and they have many question marks in their heads. So we should raise awareness about those problems. We should teach our girls how to defend themselves. As they will connect their powers, they will focus on this problem, because in order to raise awareness in our community, the private companies will be key and the driving force. In addition to all of those, the social media platforms and social media companies have a very critical role. Against those attacks, they should take much more concrete precautions because it is high time right now. And we see and witness that some social media companies have already taken many steps, but they are not enough. We should be much more braver as we take those precautions, and we should walk together in this struggle. And at this very moment, we also are in need of this legislative support coming from the states and the governments. The legal bodies should act together with the private companies, and the women should support with feminist movements to those precautions so that a sustainable and permanent and meaningful change will take place. Although I speak about the bad side of the social media, I am a representative of the Z generation. And as it is the case, there are good and bad sides of the technology. And we should focus on the good side of the technology and learn how we can make use of this good side of the technology and integrate it with our aims. And we should focus how we can use the social media platforms as a tool reaching out to our targets. Of course, having an access to technology is critical and key in today's world because people do not only communicate with the technology, but technology also has many critical roles. Of course, we communicate with people. This is the first important function of the technology, but at the same time, the technology is working as a bridge between people so that we can organize. And at the same time, through technology, we are able to reach our message to a broader audience. And as we were born into social media as the Z generation, the internet will be instrumental in terms of the share of knowledge, and we are aware of this fact. And I would like to state that the youngsters are very aware of this fact and they are very successful. With just a single tweet, we can read many stories about social injustice, and by taking a look to an Instagram story, you can come across with a demonstration against the injustices. If you would like to dig on this problem, you all of a sudden become a part of this activist group. As a result, this brings along a chance for the future activists, and this is a very important feature of technology. In a nutshell, I do believe having access to social media cannot be overlooked for our girls, and if you want to establish the social equality, the change should start from the social media and technology so that the awareness will be raised in our community. And in order to realize it, media, private companies and social media should work together. If we have time, I would like to briefly speak about He4She Turkey. One sentence, please. Well, gender equality is not a problem that only the victims can solve. That's why He4She comes into play, because after all, we are living in a patriarchal society. If the men show solidarity with us, then this problem will become a universal, and the men should be ready to cooperate with us. Because the gender equality, if it is a problem concerning all of the people in the world, then we are in need of steps to be taken by everyone, and we should walk together in this journey. And that's why we would like to make a call to every man to be a part of this movement. Thank you very much. As Selin also said, on Turkey specifically, we have seen many violence cases against women and sexual abuses towards children, unfortunately, and we actually struggled against those cases, and this was thanks to the social media, and that's why this is the case. Nothing is hidden anymore, and this is thanks to the social media. But of course, there are many downsides of it. İlayda, she will be a lawyer, but at the same time she is an activist. She has just graduated from the law faculty. She's a woman lawyer, as we need. And she is also the founder of the Kızbaşına platform in Turkey. So what are the downsides, what are the advantages, and how should we look forward? Thank you very much. Let me briefly speak about Kızbaşına platform. This platform aims at preventing any sort of abuse, hate discourse, and the gender inequality. This term called Kızbaşına in Turkish, which can be translated as girls on their own, is actually coming from this common discourse which is articulated in Turkey. You cannot go outside on their own as a girl, or you cannot do this on your own as a girl. So we are standing against this understanding, and we say that as girls we can accomplish many things on our own. So it is really meaningful for me to deliver this speech here, because organizing ourselves as girls are based on the digital infrastructure. Instagram and any other social media platforms make us much more visible. That's what we aim, at least. There is one thing that I would like to underline right here, which is also mentioned by Selin as well. The advantages of the digital platform is a specific field which we cannot overlook. But on the basis of cyber violence, there are many bottlenecks that the girls are facing with, and we should, fight against them if we are speaking about a real emancipation and empowerment. Well, there is a totally different side of this issue which I would like to touch upon. After all, we are going through a digital transformation, and as everything moves into digital, unfortunately, the hate discourse is taking place in a digital platform, and there is one thing that we should really be careful about here. None of us see the full picture of this violence. I'm sure many of us are unaware of it, but we are living under a filtered balloon inside of the social media. What do I mean by saying filter a balloon? Because at the end of the day, we think in a similar fashion, and we actually stand with the groups with whom we think in the same manner. Because the social media algorithms force us to be inside of that group, because at the end of the day, and due to this, we don't see the full picture about the cyber violence. Let me give you an example. Francis Hogan, one of the ex-Facebook workers, made a sensational announcement, and he stated that Facebook leads to depression, and at the same time, deliberately, certain contents are shown to young girls so that they will be addicted to the platform. This is the algorithm that the Facebook follows, he said. As our lives are managed with algorithms, the social media do not have the aim of leading us to something good, something beautiful, and it has a totally different aim. And it is obvious that it is not keeping us apart from the places which might be subject to violence. As a result, the regulators and the lawmakers should be able to manage this, because we are not subject to same incidents with a 15-year-old girl, because we are not subject to the same violence as they are facing with. So, I mean, the violence that they are facing with is totally different from what I am subject to, because the gender-based violence affects us differently. So we should question this, how much we are able to hear the voices of our girls, how much we are aware of it so that we can find a solution. Well, I can briefly summarize this question. We made a survey, and 25 1,000 people participated in our survey, and 10% of them were comprised of the girls below the age of 18. And if I remember correctly, 55% of them have been subject to an insecure relationship, and 35% of them have been subject to violence. So, the questions were about the violence through SMS, texting, and etc. And we brainstormed how we can solve this problem, and we should really admit this important fact. We try to make ourselves survive in the social media because we are activists after all. This is really important, but it doesn't matter how much advices we give. With 200 words, you cannot become an activist. That's why we are in need of a full-fledged communication strategy in which the NGOs and also the state bodies should participate, because we should never forget that digital transformation is just a brand new platform. But what we are fighting for is the same. That's why we are in need of very comprehensive policies, and we should be active in all those fields. So, by taking all those into consideration, as girls on our own, we are trying to support our girls and youngsters, and sometimes we organize young academies so that we can show how the girls can safely and securely survive in the activist world. And we also think that this is not enough. Under the auspices of the Ankara Metropolitan Municipality, we connect all those NGOs together, and we are leading a project for solidarity, because under the scope of the same project, we are also carrying out the media communication strategies, because this new type of activism can be managed as long as we are existed in the digital media. If I have to sum it up, if we solve all those aforesaid problems, and if we reach to this level of awareness, then a secure, safe, and independent digital media will be created for our girls. In an independent digital world, the girls will learn how to become free, emancipated. So we don't want depressed, anxious girls. We want girls who know about their fundamental rights, who produce, and who will advocate for all the women. So we have huge responsibilities on that regard, but I'm certain that we will do whatever it takes. Thank you.
Gerçekten.
Very impressive indeed. If we had time, we would have so interesting questions come out of this discussion. But Yana, Selin, İlayda, thank you so much. All three of you have conveyed messages and shared facts that take us to the following conclusion, that lawmakers, managers, administrators, well, private companies too, they all matter, but what will control all of it is the civil society. So we need to raise awareness there. Thank you so much. What you're playing as a role is so key in all different fields. Cordial thanks. We hope that we will speak about your projects in the future too, and we will hear your names again and again. And Sonia, thank you so much once again for being with us. Cordial thanks, Sonia. Enjoy your evening. Dear Shirin Faison and guests, thank you so much. As we say goodbye to them, valuable guests and participants, we will now watch our videos from you.
Evet, YouTube platformumuzda
Kız çocuklarının
bu videoları
siber zorbalığa maruz
izleyiciler
kalmadığı,
izlerken şimdi
eşit haklara
kahve
ve fırsatlara sahip olduğu dijital bir dünya yaratmak için 11 Ekim'de Dünya Kız Çocukları Konferansı'nda buluşalım.
Kızım, cerrahlık zor bir meslek. Yarın çoluk çocuk olduğu zaman yapamazsın. Doktorlukta kal bence.
Savcı olup da gecenin bir vakti elin hırsızla sen mi uğraşacaksın kadın başında?
Kadın kısmı her şeye karışmaz.
Kadın karar alınan her yere aittir. Oradaki istisna değil.
Yapabileceklerimizin limiti yok. Yeter ki isteyelim.
Birlikte güçlüyüz, asla yalnız yürümeyeceksin.
Sesimiz var, onu kullanalım. Söz alalım, cevabımızı haykıralım ve duyulmamızı sağlayalım.
Öykümü benzersiz olduğu için değil, tam aksine hiç de benzersiz sayılamayacağı için anlatıyorum. Bu sayısız kızın öyküsü.
Merhaba, ben Şahıs. Onlar Çocuk Gelindiği şarkısının yazarı. Dijital teknolojiler gelişirken siber saldırılar ve cinsel taciz vakaları artmakta. 11 Ekim Dünya Kız Çocukları Günü'nde gelin bize katılın. Kız çocukları ve kadınların yaşadığı dijital ortamlardaki saldırılara karşı birlikte çözüm bulalım.
Türkiye'de STEM alanlarından mezun olan kadın oranı %34.7'dir.
Kadınların %55'i teknoloji sektöründen uzak durma sebeplerinden birinin toplumsal önyargılar olduğunu belirtiyor.
Kadın istihdamının sadece %7'sini bilişim teknolojileri oluşturuyor.
Dünyada bilişim ve yazılım teknolojileri sektöründe çalışan kadınların oranı sadece %27.
Birçok bilimsel araştırma, STEM alanındaki kadın uzman eksikliğinin bilişsel beceri eksikliğinden kaynaklanmadığını gösteriyor.
Türkiye'de her yıl üniversitelerden mezun olan 5000 mühendisin sadece %15'ini genç kızlar oluşturuyor.
Dijital alandaki yenilikler tüm hayatımızı değiştiriyor. Kadınların inovasyon alanındaki liderliği gün geçtikçe artıyor. Bugün Dünya Kız Çocukları Günü konferansında kız çocukları ve kadınların dijital alandaki liderliklerini tüm dünyaya göstermek için bir aradayız. Kız çocukları için ve onlarla birlikte çalışmaya devam ediyoruz.
Günümüz medyasında kadınlar her gün nefret içerikli yorumlara maruz kalıyor. Bu nefret içerikleri nasıl giyinmeyi tercih ettikleri, hangi sporu yaptıkları ve bunun gibi birçok kişisel konu hakkında olabiliyor.
Bu konuda bizlere düşen görev ise nefret içerikli yorumlara karşı sessiz kalmamak ve bu siber şiddet hakkında farkındalık yaratmak. Elimizden geldiğince paylaşmayı ihmal etmemeliyiz. Hep beraber daha güçlü olacağız.
Toplumsal cinsiyete dayalı siber şiddetle tek başına mücadele etmek zorunda değilsin. Haklarını koruyan sözleşmeler var.
Toplumsal cinsiyet eşitliğinin sağlanması için temel algılarımızı ve önyargılarımızı yıkalım, tabuları ortadan kaldıralım. Kız çocuğu hayallerinin peşinden koşabilir, spor yapabilir, özgürce dans edebilir ve kahkaha atabilir. Korkma çocuk, sen de şarkını özgürce söyle.
Toplumsal cinsiyet eşitliğini sağlayıp siber şiddete dur demek istiyorsan önce dilini değiştir. Unutma, dil değişirse toplum değişir. Eşitlik dilde başlar.
Gelin kız çocuklarının dijital ortamda daha aktif rol almaları için birlikte çalışalım.
Warmest greetings. Join us on October 11th on the International Day of Girl Child. On this important day, we need everyone's support to show that girls are the new generation digital leaders of the society in which they live, who can implement solutions that they create and demand their rights.
Toplumsal cinsiyet eşitliği ile ilgili toplumsal gelişmeler son 10 yılda damgasını vurmuş olsa da kalıplaşmış sosyal normlar kız çocukları ve kadınlar için hala büyük tehdit oluşturmakta. Dijital bir dünyada eşit haklara sahip kız ve erkek çocuklarını desteklemek ve kalıplaşmış normların yarattığı direnci kırmak için 11 Ekim'de bize katılın.
Tehnologija i inovacije danas mijenjaju svijet brže nego prije, a mladi i sposobni ljudi nikad nam nisu bili potrebni. Brisanje one stare ideje u kojoj postoje muška i ženska zanimanja ne bi samo stvorilo zdravije i funkcionalnije društvo, nego bi pomoglo svijetu da krene ka svome napretku s novom ženskom snagom stvaranja bolje budućnosti. Ćao, ja sam Ana i jako mi drago što ću učestvovati u ovome. Učenica sam 3. gimnazije u Sarajevu i idem na IT smjer. U mom razredu je nažalost samo 5 djevojaka koje su odlučile razbiti sve stereotipe i predrasude da je ovaj smjer samo za dječake. Smatram da je IT svijet mašte i da se svaka djevojka tu može pronaći i svu svoju maštu prenijeti u razne programe. Također smatram da svaka djevojka može igrati gamerske igrice, praviti robote, eksperimentisati i naravno programirati.
Dijital teknolojiler gelişirken siber zorbalık ve sanal ortamda yaşanan cinsel tacizler de artmakta. 11 Ekim Dünya Kız Çocukları Günü'nde bize katılın. Kız çocukları ve kadınların sanal ortamda yaşadıkları tehlikelere karşı birlikte çözüm bulalım.
Merhaba, ben Arda Eren. Eşitsizlik bugün hala devam ediyor. Eşitlik için her alanda daha fazla talepkar olmalı. Dünyada devam eden eşitsizliği azaltmak için daha fazla uğraşmalıyız. Bu eşitsizliğe maruz kalan her kadın mülteci, göçmen ve kız çocukları için sesimizi yükseltmeliyiz. Kız çocukları ve kadınların dijital çağdaki liderliği için 11 Ekim Dünya Kız Çocukları Günü'nde bize katılın.
Kız çocuklarının ve kadınların dijital çağa öncülük ettiği bir dünya için 11 Ekim Dünya Kız Çocukları Günü'nde sen de bize katıl.
Olacağı bu. Sen köy yerinde el alem ne der demeyip kızını okula gönderirsen, tarlada çalıştırmak varken yurtlarda kalmasına izin verirsen, o da yetmezmiş gibi şehir dışına gitmesine müsaade edersen, ta oralarda kız başına yaşasın dersen, olacağı bu. Önlerinde durmazsanız onların olacağı, Türkiye'nin geleceği. Aydın Doğan Vakfı olarak her yıl binlerce kızımızın eğitimini destekliyoruz. Güçlü kızlar, güçlü yarınlar.
11 Ekim Dünya Kız Çocukları Günü'nde gelin siz de bize katılın. Kız çocuklarının ve kadınların dijital dünyada maruz kaldığı şiddete birlikte dur diyelim.
Değerli katılımcılar, canlı yayınımız 1 dakika içerisinde başlayacaktır. O yüzden sizleri yerlerinize davet ediyorum.
Our meeting will start in a minute, so I'd like to invite you to your seats, please.
Ve tekrar
And we're back together for our live broadcast. Valuable participants, I'd like to once again say hello to everyone who's watching us on YouTube. On the 11th of October, we're together for the International Day of the Girl Child Conference, and now we have our new panel, which will be a second panel. But before we start, there will be an opening speech, which will be delivered by UN Women Turkey Country Director Asya Barbanova. So now I would like to invite her to the floor and leave her the floor.
Dear partners, dear General Director of the Aydın Doğan Foundation, Candan Hanım, dear Regional Director of UNICEF, dear friends, Regina, UNICEF representative, Hassan, UNFPA representative, dear friends today with us in the room and online, it is really a great pleasure to welcome you to this second panel of today's conference. And to underline, I would like to start first of all by underlining how important this partnership that we have established with the Aydın Doğan Foundation and with our sister UN agencies is to us at UN Women. This strong partnership has made it possible to convene for the 7th year in a row, even in this hybrid format, even with all the challenges that the COVID pandemic has caused and on all of us in the past 1.5 years. So I'm very glad that this partnership continues strong. And I would really like to celebrate all the girls, all the young women that are with us today, that are with us actually every day of the year, because we work for you and with you. But today we pay special attention, and we really want to emphasize the contribution, the immense value of girls to everything that we are trying to do in this world, all the sustainable development goals that we are trying to achieve, all of our aspirations to humanity. We cannot achieve them without each and every one of you. So today is all about you, dear girls. It is you who are at the forefront of global action for change, of rebuilding back better and more equal from the COVID-19 pandemic, in addressing the structural inequalities that existed before the pandemic, but that the pandemic actually worsened and exposed. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing your inspiring vision, your ideas, your passion. I can say that we are all very much affected. It's very contagious, your passion, and we're really feeling it. As you all have emphasized, we've heard from the previous speakers, to be a girl today is to really be a part of a digital generation. You were even saying that the way we communicate is through media, is through texting rather than talking. So this is really a transformation that is unparalleled, that is global. A 15-year-old girl today is much more connected digitally than a 15-year-old girl in any previous generation. So this, of course, requires all of us to think very carefully, what does this mean to girls? What does this mean to each and every one of us, this digital era that we live in, that affects every aspect of our life? And I think we're seeing across the world and we have proof again today from the girls we listened to earlier, is that girls of today, young women of today, they're already leading this digital transformation in many ways. From the teenage girls that are taking part in coding camps across Africa, to the robotics girls team of Afghan girls, which is basically showing the power of upholding girls' rights to education, to many girls in Turkey that are leading social change through online, through mobilizing, through online means. They are already leading. But this leading, this leadership is not exercised fully, it's not exercised meaningfully, and it's not exercised safely, unfortunately. How can a 15-year girl today really participate in this digital transformation in a full, meaningful, and safe way? Unfortunately, the reality, as we heard earlier, is far from our aspirations, it's far from our goals, and there is a gender divide across connectivity, skills, and online safety. We heard many statistics how girls are less connected to the internet compared to boys, women compared to men, how when they do connect, when they do use online media, they are suffering from violence, from cyber violence, from cyber harassment, and how, in fact, for girls who are from particular disadvantaged groups, those who are in particular situations, these aspects are even worse. So, to be able to ensure that every girl has the right to be connected, to play her part in shaping a more equal, a more green, a more tech-driven future, we all need to play our part. We all need to do something differently. Because if they do not have full use, full control over, full access to technology, girls will be simply left behind. And none of us wants to allow this to happen. Not only do digital inclusion and literacy open new avenues for girls learning and earning, technology, as we heard, is also a crucial enabler for the change that many girls want to see around the world, for addressing some of these urgent challenges of today, from gender inequality to climate change to social injustices. Technology can be an enabler, and we need to play our part to make sure the girls can use it safely and fully. Despite the various challenges they're facing, girls are already mobilizing across sectors, across countries and regions to make this change happen, to fight for equality and justice. They're calling for their needs, for their priorities, to be incorporated into policies that can transform our economies and our societies. They're impatient, they're bold, they're leaders, and we must listen to them. The wide diversity of girls' voices was instrumental in shaping the Global Acceleration Plan for Gender Equality, which was part of the Generation Equality Forum, which was completed earlier this year in March and then June in Mexico and in Paris. Adolescent girls worked alongside civil society leaders, governments, corporations, and change makers from around the world on an ambitious 5-year plan, Acceleration Plan for Gender Equality, which will be implemented in the next 5 years under 6 action coalitions. And I know that some of you in the room and online were involved in this process, and you were really instrumental in all of these 6 action coalitions, especially in one of them, and this is the Action Coalition on Technology and Innovation for Gender Equality. And I really believe that the continued engagement of girls, of young women, will be instrumental to the success of this Action Coalition. Dear friends, I'm fully convinced that unless we can harness all the talent, all the energy, all the commitment of young women and girls of today, we will not be able to solve the complex challenges that we have to deal with, that humanity has to face. We will not be able to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. UN Women will continue working hand in hand with all of our partners to put girls at the heart of the digital revolution. We will continue supporting initiatives to increase digital skills and access for women and girls, to invest in feminist technology and innovation, to increase and develop new tools and partnerships to combat gender-based violence, online violence, and tech-driven violence and discrimination. And we will continue to insist that girls' right to education, including in the ICT and STEM fields, is non-negotiable. I salute all the speakers at today's conference. I very much look forward to the panel, and we're here to continue working closely with you and supporting you in every way that we can. Thank you very much. Çok teşekkürler.
Thank you. Sayın Marnabo'ya çok teşekkür ediyoruz bu.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marnabaru, for this speech. Now we continue with our panel. Digital field for improvement in gender equality will be the subject of this panel. We have Ayşe Deniz Bilge Tolunay from Germany, Kenya, from Kyrgyzstan, Ms. Alnurova will be with us, contributing to this panel, and the moderator of this panel will be Afşin Yurdakul. So with your applause, I'd like to invite them to this panel. Hello again. We have 25 minutes left. We are going to be running fast because we are lagging behind. I'm going to carry this panel on in Turkish and English at the same time. We have in our online room new people who joined us. I'm Afşin. This is a great enjoyment for me. This is, something that speaks to my heart. It's not just something professional. It's also something that has to do with who I am. So it's a great opportunity for me to be here with you. And thanks once again. Cordial thanks for this opportunity. So in this session, we are going to be speaking in Turkish with some of you and in English with those who are English speakers. We will speak about the digital area and skills when it comes to the improvement of gender equity. So we will have 2 quick tours in 25 minutes. I'm going to switch between Turkish and English. If I make any mistakes, please excuse me already. Let's move fast. I'd like to start with Ayşegül Hanım. Thank you, everyone.
Speaker. Elvira, hi. You probably see me somewhere. I can't see you, but hi. Anyhow, I'm waving at the only screen that I have in front of me. Very lovely to have you with us as well. Tamam, salladı. Hangi kameradayız biz? Orada. Peki. Teşekkürler, sağ olun. Ayşegül Hanım, hoş geldiniz.
Welcome, Ayşegül Hanım. So let's have a nice conversation. I have some notes with me, but I want to have something in my ear. Some nice stories, experiences. Otherwise, we're holding conferences and talking about all these important matters. But how are we going to push this huge rock that stands in front of us? That's what I'm trying to understand. My question to you will be, well, here we are talking about digital equality for girls and women. Technology poses certain threats as well as opportunities. So you have a personal story, and at the same time, you have very valuable steps taken in the business world. And that's why I'm curious to find out whether technology is going to clear the path for women and how. What are the threats and opportunities? Well, first of all, throughout my life, I spent my entire life in the technology industry in Turkey, in Silicon Valley, and in other places around the globe. And I have come across amazing women's stories. You usually remember good things and not the bad ones, So I have great stories about, enriching one's career and life. I met wonderful women and learned amazing stories, which is why technology is always a positive for me. Today, technology is capable of really a lot of negatives too, but it's a tool and it turns into whatever we make out of it. As human beings, we can make good things out of it or bad. So, first of all, technology is quite horizontal. It's putting us all in an equal level, and it's making us free. It's emancipating. It's liberating. In our industry, there is no tradition. Yesterday does not matter at all. There's today and tomorrow. Even today is not important. Tomorrow is the only important thing, and the most valuable companies are those that have a commitment for tomorrow, and that can shape and embody tomorrow. please don't be agree with me, but those traditional sectors like industry, banking, etc., the well-established ones that have been there for 100 years and have rules and traditions and conventions and have, really strict borders. Well, these are so different as compared to technology. So technology is tailor-made for women. Let me give you an example. When I was 32, I was the general manager for Turkey. When I was 35, I was the regional manager for Turkey, Africa, and Middle East. And when I was in my 40s, I was the deputy president for the world in charge of new technologies. 17, 18 years ago, I was telling amazing stories. Each time I came to Turkey, I was telling, well, she switched her husband's ravioli company to Yemek Sepeti and tripled the size of the company. In South Africa, someone turned into an internet cafe into a computer education center and employed hundreds of people. These were examples. Hanzade is an example that you saw today, one of the greatest retailers in Turkey, the founder being Turkish, a woman, and another company that is another example is also from a very successful Turkish woman. There are so many great examples. There's another one. Well, back then there was me and another one, but now there are tens of amazing female managers, leaders. If you use technology well, it's possible to rise above the crowds very rapidly. And it's a really completely disruptive industry. And secondly, in terms of careers, the future will belong to women in terms of capacity and aptitude. I know this is really ambitious to say, but it is the truth. And emotional skills, EQ, will be key. So men who have it will also be winners. Knowledge will not be important anymore. It will be zero because it's everywhere and available readily. But numbers, and manually done tasks will not matter either. But on the other hand, creativity, the ability to dream, to understand, comprehend, and interpret. So soft skills, where we are really good at, where we are really curious to do, and where we are really open to communicate about, will be on the forefront in the new century. Well, century will be too long for technology. 3 decades from now, actually, in the coming 3 decades. So I think women will be able to go a few steps ahead of men in this regard, and they should embrace this opportunity. One little story, anecdote I'd like to share with you, because that's what you remember from events like this. When I was a regional manager, I was 34 or 35 years old, and everyone reporting to me were English, French, Finnish, managing Middle East, but they were all Westerns. I mean, they were managing the Middle East, but they were all from outside. And they were all between 50 to 60 years of age, and I was their boss all of a sudden. There was so much resistance. It was, barriers and walls everywhere. What is this woman doing here? That was the first reaction. And I had a really successful manager there, the CEO of Intel now. Well, later he retired from there. He told me, we brought you here because you are you. If we wanted someone like them, we would have here someone like them. But you just look ahead. Who is with you will remain with you. With the rest of them, do as you wish, he told me. We are where we are because we are who we are. And we should never give up on who we are. We should always stick to who we are as women. A quick question. I was becoming curious as I listened to you. These soft skills, where women will be strong in the future, well, these will be needed in the future, and it will be embodied by these, you said. Do you think there will be a resistance about that? No. Let me give you a very quick example. Artificial intelligence. What is AI? It is the output of what we input. If we ask the right question and make the right interpretation, then AI becomes really successful. But usually it fails. And it's really inefficient today because those who ask the questions behind computers have the same background. They're young men with the same background. So seriously, we require change if we do want to shape future and predict it as we wish. Thank you so much. So the inequity patterns that exist need to be prevented from continuing. And for that, this is really important. The same applies to machine learning and AI. So in order to stop those inequalities to continue, we need to take action in that direction. So thank you so much for your answer in this first tour. I hope that we will have enough time for the second tour as well. And we are going to elaborate on this further. Buse Tolunay is also with us. She is a student in Bosphorus University, Computer Engineering Department. And I know that Buse has at hand her notes. She took notes down. She thought of what she was going to say. But before that, before the panel, we had a really nice conversation where Buse told me, I noted it down, the department was having a meeting so that you would meet each other in Bosphorus University. Right, Buse? Yes. So, Computer Engineering Department. You went to the meeting. Apart for Buse and the teacher, everyone else were male. Yes, 30 of them were all male. So the department has more capacity for more students, but there were fewer and fewer girls. So these were two facts that Buse shared with me, and this is very much relevant to the topic. That's why I'm going to ask her to share with me more facts about this anecdote. What did you feel when you were the sole girl in that class? And apart from that, how did you say, well, what difference does it make? I'm going to make it anyway. So let me hear what Buse Tolunay thought about this. Well, I must say, at the beginning I felt so lonely, and I felt less and less that I belonged there, because being the only woman is not easy. I'm also the R&D director in a club, and I'm a manager there, and all the leaders there are male. Sometimes to establish my authority, I have to be strict, and then they find me frightening. It's not easy at all. But when we believe in ourselves, I believe we can sort this out. Biologically, women are not lacking anything. We have no physical lacks. It's just the perception of the society that causes this, guidance. And girls are led to service-related businesses like dentistry or chemistry, becoming a pharmacist, because, IT belongs to men. All IT people need to be asocial nerds who are not so willing to speak with others, etc. That's the perception. And when you're not fitting that description, you might feel yourself isolated, alienated, and sometimes I get reactions that I wouldn't expect from others. But I really do believe in myself. Sometimes I do feel I don't belong there. There have been times that I really questioned this, but then I became aware. A lot of, time had to pass so that I would really become aware that I should be confident, and I became aware that it was just because of the social prejudice. I'll be here as a woman, and I'm going to clear the path for girls in the future as well, I say. Well, I just felt like it, Buse. I just felt like it. Buse, you also said, it's going wonderful. You don't need your notes at all. When you tell stories like this, it's so much better. And you say during the club meeting, so certain things were, managed, they were successful. And they would say something like, these men made it. It's always the men. Well, it's the language of the society that also gets impacted by this. We had worked until midnight, and then we wanted to take a rest. And these were in the IT club. They knew me, and they knew I was the R&D director. It was 4 of us in the team, and they said the men did it. The men managed. The men, the men succeeded. And I reacted, of course. I'm never quiet when this happens. Sometimes they find me annoying or angry, but I know that if I don't react, other girls will suffer the same. So even if they find me annoying, I don't care. I'm just giving my reaction as I should. And sometimes it upsets me really when you're looking them in the eye. They can still say, those men made it, although I was part of the team and they know it. So there's a problem there. Thank you so much, Buse. And we will discuss what needs to be done so that we can change this. In this panel, we have to have 2 perspectives. First, how can the technology clear the path for women? And number 2, the social media and existing platforms, how can they play a role in improving the situation with the inequality? And we have activists with us too. So I'd like to ask our activists to overcome these inequalities. How can we use social media?
And many thanks again for being with us. So the question for you obviously is how is it possible to how can we use technology and social media platforms in a way that we can address gender inequality and we can make women more visible in those spaces? Ksenia first, and then I'd love to go to our next speaker, Elvira. Welcome again. Go
Thank
ahead.
you, and it's very great to be here in person. It's the first time after a long time, so let's see how it goes. I'm not an expert on social media directly, so maybe to start, I would like to talk a bit about how at Young Feminist Europe and in the Generation Equality Forum process that we have heard before, are working with girl leadership, youth leadership especially, and then how we use really strategically and as movement building and empowering parts social media, but also platforms, online collaboration tools, and different things. So one thing that is important to mention today in this context and is that when we talk about women's leadership, girls' leadership, and bringing them into change-making positions or seeing girls and young women and youth as change makers and leaders of change, I think we really need to make the differentiation to bring that it's not just about bringing more women into hierarchical structures, not seeing leadership as something that is a hierarchy, that is reaching the top. Of course, we need girls and women in these positions and cannot stop doing that. But it's also about what are the structures that we need and how can we use more transformative approaches to leadership. That means, for example, bringing young people in and talking about girls' leadership is really not to see them as leaders of the future or to see what can we teach girls so that they can lead one day, but also moving from just increasing diversity to making structures more inclusive and more transformative. So that means we need to change some of the structures. That means we need to change practices. And I really liked what we heard today, that I think from the UN Women speaker before, it's about like we're impatient. And in the Generation Equality Forum, YFE is also co-leader of UNICEF on the Action Coalition on Feminist Movements and Leadership, and we coordinated a lot of processes there, a lot of co-coordination of the youth engagement. And what was very important, of youth leadership, is that we really shift the approaches from girl and youth participation, engagement, meaningful engagement, to leadership and giving co-ownership of processes. That's decision making, that's agenda setting, and all that. I'm coming to the to the digital part in a second. I just wanted to give that that context a bit as well, because it's really, there's a lot of knowledge and power and expertise there, especially on digital things. I think when we talk about skills on digital spaces, maybe the next generation or the older generation can learn a lot as well. And it's sometimes about being in the space and sitting with being uncomfortable, or sometimes needing for change to make others feel uncomfortable. And what we do, so one important approach, and you mentioned that before, and we heard it also from, I think, Jana before, is this thing about youth-led spaces, creating youth-led spaces, and using digital tools to connect, to really having the safe space to speak about the experience of powerlessness and changing that. It's really important to create that, and we use online platforms, other social media platforms as well, and it's also, I mean, of course there is a lot of negative aspects on digital things, and it creates divides, and it creates accessibility issues. So like that's a part, but I want to focus also on like the power of it and what we can do with it, and what we have really achieved through using online platforms and meeting in youth-led spaces is feeling much more empowered to speak up, feeling less lonely in spaces. And it's not just about men in the room, but for youth, who we experience a lot of exclusion, we have not a lot of access to shape spaces, to make to be part of decision making in agenda setting. So it's also important to have spaces where youth speaks. So I feel much more empowered to speak about these things now after having already a youth panel here before and hearing from others. And maybe just to add one more thing.
Yes, just one more point, and then I'll move to Elvira.
Is that we should ask more like, what can we learn? How can we put these young people, girls already in leadership? What can we learn from them? And I think Jana's example from before around mental health, it's not that our generation has more mental health issues, we are bringing it to light and we are addressing it. We are more emotionally intelligent, we address trauma, generational trauma, collective trauma, all that. And I think that's where a lot of empowerment and change happens. But yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Ksenia. No, sorry. This was wonderful, and thank you for all the inspiring and thought-provoking comments you shared with us. Elvira, can you hear me?
Yes.
Elvira.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead. We are impatient to hear from you. Go ahead.
İyi akşamlar. Diğer muhteşem konuşmacılarla aynı panelde olmak.
Good evening. I'm so happy to be together with all the participants. So it's wonderful. I really wish to share the same atmosphere together with you, but unfortunately I have to be staying online.
Share a story of a girl who lives in a remote village at the border between Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan. I met her about 2 years ago, and she was 15. She wanted to become a social worker and help families in need, just like hers. She, together with her siblings, sometimes would skip school to help her family in the field. And then 2 years ago, she left her village to go to a big city for the first time. She attended our media literacy and activism training, got very inspired, and convinced her father to buy her a smartphone. Her father took a loan, and despite that it was out of their family budget, he purchased her a smartphone. Now she's 18, and she's working as a social media manager for several organizations in southern Kyrgyzstan. Together with her friends, she just launched an online social media course and earned more than anybody else in her family. Her name is Guliza. I talked to Guliza last night. She sent me a series of videos she edited and updated me about what was going on in her life. As always, she was energetic, full of ideas, and eager to learn more. Guliza hasn't figured out what she wants to, whether or not she wants to go to college, because her family cannot afford higher education. But Guliza for us is a success case in our project terms. But in today's world, digital technologies are instrumental in breaking the barriers that many girls like Guliza and women can actually overcome these barriers. And throughout my 10 years of youth activism, I met hundreds of girls and boys from cities and villages in Central Asia who, just like her, needed guidance and means to challenge the social norms and expectations, to create youth-led safe spaces, to talk about our needs, as we just talked about it. But these stories make me proud, but at the same time, I also understand the environment that we live in is very dim. As of 2021, women make up roughly 50% of the total population of Kyrgyzstan. And out of 6 million people, 2.5 million are children under 18. And girls make up 41% of all children in my country. And more than 67%, they live in rural areas. But unfortunately, the rising level of poverty among women, a widening urban and rural divide, deterioration in women's access to public services such as formal and informal education, and resurgence of patriarchal and traditional values have resulted in growing rates and new manifestations of violence against women. Women's access to education is often constrained by the perception that investing in girls' education is a waste of resources or it's unnecessary since they will just get married and thus benefits will accrue to another family. And only 29% of women are actively using internet in Kyrgyzstan, and only 1 out of 3 of girls have computer literacy. This makes it especially difficult for young women to have access to promising work opportunities today. But also gender stereotypes, they promote subordinate roles of women, the patriarchal discourse or discriminatory traditions, they're gaining increased support now. And about 12,000 young women are kidnapped and forced into marriage every year in Kyrgyzstan. While running a youth organization, IDEA Central Asia in Kyrgyzstan, we focused more on building a conducive environment apart from empowering girls and young people individually. We trained parents, local governments, and police. We also realized that digital technologies are great instruments to advocate equality, but at the same time, it also serves as a means to control girls and also publicly shame them. So today, my main message is along with lines what Caroline Moser, a social anthropologist, emphasized, saying that there should be a distinction between practical and strategic needs in gender-focused development. She noted that to have a gradual change or not to harm our beneficiaries, it may be worth starting from addressing women's practical needs such as digital literacy.
Right.
But today, I would like to also remind us, like policymakers and development people, that it's crucial to provide these practical needs to girls, but also it's crucial to address strategic changes and transformation. So like girls like Guliza, who does have practical needs, but cannot still afford a higher education. So we need their meaningful participation in all means.
Thank you, Elvira, for that message. Toplumsal cinsiyet eşitliğini geliştirme yönelik.
Well, developing the digital competencies for the gender equality, I know that we don't have any time, but I would like to ask to each one of our participants, what are your recommendations in order to realize this target? Buse. I will not say learn how to code and work a lot. Travel around the world. Do not see people as a monotype. I mean, be present and try to understand other women. So we should become universal citizens. So we should read. As long as we increase our intellectual capacity, we will be much more valuable. Try to learn something about any sort of topic. Create. One of my friends told me, we are going down on a slippery road, so we are in need of women leadership because the women can solve the crisis very easily. Set up good teams and employ people better than you and create products which will solve the problems. And talk. The more you talk, the more power you have. We don't talk much. Well, we talk a lot, but we should talk much more when the men are present. Thank you. Buse, your recommendation to families in the field of STEM for the girls' parents. Well, they should treat boys and girls equally because the biggest reason why the girls are not present in this technological field is due to the fact that they are getting to know the technology much later because girls are, doing the homeworks, but the boys are trying to hack the system and learn English. So this is why the mobile phones are owned more by men with comparison to women. So that's why the parents play a very important role. Girls should get to know with the technology in the earlier ages. First, they should be able to use those platforms, and then they should learn how to write software. But if a girl cannot use Word or Excel, they cannot code, of course. That's why they should be trained at first, and then they can involve in creating new softwares. And at the same time, the presence and the visibility of the women in the field of STEMs are very low. Unfortunately, in many series, the women are presented as housewives. That's why we should increase their visibility. Thank you.
Teşekkür ediyorum. Ksenia, 1 minute last remarks, and then Elvira, 1 minute last remarks, please. And then we'd like to say goodbye.
Okay, 1 minute. Definitely an important recommendation is to maybe create co-mentorship programs, really thinking about how to put girls and young people into leadership position, letting them lead, and not just taking a look at society, but starting with ourselves, reflecting on the power that we hold, not just seeing inequalities as systems of also like power imbalances. So what is the power that you hold as an older person, and how can you reduce that hierarchy? And yeah, that would be one recommendation. Create youth-led spaces, not just spaces for girls, but really youth-led spaces. And one word I want to drop is like intersectionality, intersectional approaches. I'm sure most of the young people in the room know what they do, because that's what we've been pushing for a lot with a lot of youth from around the globe, intersectional approaches to all of that. So those are the recommendations.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Elvira, back to you. Elvira?
Yeah, my last remark would be along the lines that saying that transformation requires engagement, both girls and boys, young and old. And also, we also have to make sure that the environment that we're creating, the digital world, also is safe for girls too. Thank you.
Thank you, Elvira. And thank you, everybody else in this room and joining us online. Çok teşekkürler. We'll leave it here. Sağ olun. İyi akşamlar.
Thank you very much to everyone. Avşin Yurdakul, we would like to thank her guests with a big round of applause. We would like to thank them once again. So we are approaching to the end of our conference, and we will hear the last messages from this conference. In order to empower the girls in the digital environment, the international community and the business world will be called upon, and I will invite two youngsters, Zeynep Betül Demirses and Dominic Ogrena, to the stage, please. They will be together with us, and this call will be delivered both in Turkish and English. The floor is yours.
Hepinize merhaba. Bu birazcık daha uzayabiliyor mu?
Hello to everyone. Hello to everyone. My name is Zeynep Betül. I am so happy that I am together with you guys. We have come to the end of our conference, but hopefully this end will be the just new beginning. So all together on 11th of October, let's make the girls lead, and let's celebrate this day as the big day that we are taking a huge step. We have listened wonderful stories today about the dreams of girls, but we should never forget that the dreams of the girls are prevented by the gender inequality, which presents as itself as an obstacle. As of 1995, for one huge generation, we are facing with the similar problems. Don't you think that it is?
A starting point for many of us. Let's make today, 11th of October 2021, the day we all took an important step to advance girls' empowerment. We have heard great examples of girls and women leading today. Yet we heard that gender barriers still exist, and they are preventing women and girls from following their dreams, their independence, their safety, protection, and participation. Isn't it frustrating that we are still discussing the same challenges that were discussed a generation ago at the Beijing Platform of Action in 1995?
Karar vericiler ve siyasi liderler, bugünün kız çocukları ve kadınları olarak uluslararası insan hakları sözleşmeleri kapsamında güvence altına alan haklarımızı kaybetmeyi göze alamayız. Hayatın tüm alanlarında
toplumsal cinsiyet eşitliğini ilerletecek kararlara imza atmanız için sizlere çağrıda bulunuyoruz. Ayrıca şu ana kadar kaydedilen ilerlemelerin gerilemesine yol açabilecek tüm kararların karşısında durmanızı istiyoruz. Kadın ve gençlik örgütleri için demokratik kamu alanlarının ve finansal kaynakların teminine destek verecek güçlü kararlar almanıza ihtiyacımız var. Bekleyecek zamanımız yok. Bir başka kız çocuğu daha çevrim içi ortamda istismara dayalı bir içeriğe maruz bırakılmadan, bir genç kadın daha cinsiyeti nedeniyle işsiz kalmadan, bir öğrenci daha gelecek hayallerinden vazgeçmeden harekete geçin. Kız çocuklarının toplumumuzdaki ihtiyaçlarını karşılamak için bu yıl bir girişim başlatın, kapsayıcı bir politika geliştirin, bir komite kurun veya sivil toplumla işbirliği yapmanızı geliştirecek bir araç geliştirin.
Decision makers, political leaders. As girls and women of today, we cannot afford losing the rights that were guaranteed to us by international conventions. We call on you to sign decisions advancing gender equality in all spheres of life and reject all that can take us one step back from where we are today. We need your support in sustaining democratic public spaces and financial resources for women's and youth organizations. Take action now, before one more girl faces abusive content online, before one more young woman is denied a job because of her gender, before one more student gives up her hopes and dreams. Start an initiative, develop an inclusive policy, build a committee, or create an official tool for consulting with the civil society this year to address girls' problems in your community.
İş dünyasının liderleri, işverenler ve özel sektörün diğer üyeleri. Kadınların insan onuruna yakışır işlerde çalışması için alan ve fon sağlayın. Bu konuda emin adımlar atmanıza ihtiyacımız var. Kız çocuklarının ve kadınların eğitimi ve öğretimi için burs ya da staj programları geliştirin. Politikalarınızı yenileyin. Reklamlarınızı gözden geçirin ve en önemlisi de kaynaklarınızı kullanın. İş dünyasındaki kadınlar. Sizler de sektörünüzdeki kadınların daha fazla güçlenmesini sağlamak için rol model olabileceğiniz ve liderlik becerilerinizi öğretebileceğiniz bir mentörlük programına yazılın.
Business leaders, employers, members of the private sector, we need your decisive commitment to create the space and use your resources for women's participation in decent work. Start up a scholarship, an internship program. Revise your policies and review your advertisements. Increase your donations for girls and women's training and education. Women in business, we call on you to sign up today to a mentorship program to be a role model and a pioneer for more powerful women in your sector.
Sivil toplum aktörleri, gönüllüler ve kanaat önderleri. Bu yolculukta sizlere de ihtiyacımız var. Sizleri izleme ve hesap verebilirlik alanlarında görmek istiyoruz. Kız çocuklarının haklarını ilerletmek için ulusal, bölgesel ve küresel koalisyonlar hakkında daha fazla bilgi edinin. Taahhütlerinizi hayata geçirmek için bu koalisyonlara katılın ve toplumların değişim gücüne inanın.
Civil society actors, volunteers, community members. Moving forward, we call on you for monitoring and accountability. Find out about national, regional, global coalitions for advancing girls and join them to affirm your commitments. You will see how much power there is in changing inside the community.
Sevgili aileler, kız çocuklarınızla hemen bugün yapıcı bir konuşma gerçekleştirin. Gelecek nesilleri etkilemek ve kalıp yargıları kırmak için sizin etkiniz çok büyük. Cinsiyetlerimizden bağımsız olarak sahip olduğumuz haklardan faydalanmamızı sağlamak sizin sorumluluğunuzda. Kızınıza gelecekten ne beklediğini ve ne istediğini sorun. Bu geleceği kendi başına inşa edecek gücü olduğuna güvenin. Onu kararlarında destekleyin ve dijital becerilerinizi birlikte geliştirin. Yıl sonuna kadar hem kızınız hem de kendiniz kesinlikle bu alanda bir eğitim programına kaydolun.
To the parents, caregivers, and family members, please have a constructive talk to your daughter today. You have such an important role in challenging stereotypes and in influencing the future generation. It is your responsibility to ensure that we enjoy our rights irrespective of our genders. Ask your daughter what she wants for her future and trust that she has the power to build it herself. Support her in the decisions and work on developing your digital skills together. Before the end of the year, be sure she and you are both registered in a learning opportunity.
Sevgili çocuklar ve gençler, eğer sesinizi daha çok duyurmak istiyorsanız daha fazla adım atmalısınız. Bu konferanstan sonra çevrim içi olun ve toplumunuzdaki katılım imkanları hakkında daha fazla bilgi edinin. Bu bir çocuk hakları komitesi, çocuk meclisi, sivil toplum kuruluşu veya öğrenci kurulu olabilir. Arkadaşlarınıza sorun, bize sorun. En yakın toplum merkezine gidin ve kendiniz hakkında alınan kararlara dahil olmak için mevcut fırsatları araştırın. Kendinize bir hedef koyun. Bilimin ve teknolojinin bize yakın gelecekte neler katacağını keşfedin. Dijital alanda güçlenmek ve kendinizi dijital alanda korumak için neler yapmanız gerektiğini öğrenin.
Dear children and young people, if we want to be heard, we need to take action too. Right after this conference, go online and learn more about engagement opportunities in your community. This can be a child rights committee, a children's assembly, a student board. Ask your friends, knock on the door of the nearest community center, and discover what it is out there for you to participate in decisions involving you. Set goals to discover what science and technology will bring us soon, to digitally empower yourself, and to learn about online protection.
Bazen her şey üstünüze geliyor gibi hissedebilirsiniz. Eğer her şey üstünüze geliyormuş gibi hissederseniz bilin ki asla yalnız değilsiniz. Tüm dünyanın desteği arkanızda. Akranlarınız olarak bizler toplumsal cinsiyet eşitliği mücadelenizde yanınızdayız.
If you are overwhelmed, know that you are not alone. There is an immeasurable amount of support from all across the globe. As your peers, we are with you in the fight for gender equality.
Sesimizi duyan herkesin bugün bu konuda bir adım atacağına inanıyoruz. Sizler sürdürülebilir kalkınma amaçlarına ulaşmayı planladığımız 2030 yılına geldiğimizde geriye dönüp bakacak ve daha adilane bir dünya yaratmak için üzerinize düşeni yapmış olduğunuzu göreceksiniz. Unutmayın, en büyük çınarlar da zamanında bir tohumdu ve değişim elbette bizimle gelecek.
We believe that all of you who are hearing us now will take a step today. And in 2030, the year that the world aimed to reach sustainable development goals, you will look back and see that you have done your part in creating a more just world. The time
Artık
is now.
zamanı geldi.
Muhteşemler.
It was lovely. Well, I believe it was explained wonderfully. So with this speech and with those messages, we are coming to the end of our conference. Well, distinguished participants, 11th of October is a very special day. Well, after all, we are speaking about the future of our girls, and we try to exchange our views in order to minimize the obstacles and the barriers that our girls are facing with. But it shouldn't be actually special to 11th of October only, because every passing minute and every passing day, there are many more to be done. In the Europe and in the Central Asia, we try to contribute to those activities. That's why we came together. Hopefully, the exchange of our views contributed to those activities. I hope that each one of the messages delivered here will be a source of hope for the future. As a mother of a girl, I am doing my best and know from the bottom of my heart how important it is. Of course, we should stand by our girls, because we say empowered girls means empowered future. We would like to thank Aydın Doğan Foundation, UNICEF, UN Women, and UNFPA. I'd like to extend my gratitude and respect to each one of you. Hopefully, we come together in the brighter future where our girls and our children are much more optimistic about future. We will come together in this stage with wonderful guests. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you.